What's going on, guys? Welcome into Vikings Now. I'm your host for today's video, Patrick Seatman. We got three stories that I want to touch on today's show. We're going to be talking about the latest around Dalvin Cook. CBS Sports put out a really interesting article on that. We're going to talk about extending Danielle Hunter. There's still some uncertainty on whether Danielle Hunter will be honestly playing for the Minnesota Vikings next season. Then we're going to finish it off by talking about Brian Flores and just really how impactful he can really be for this Vikings defense, because that's for sure the side of the football that the Vikings need to turn around the most. But, guys, we are starting a sub-battle this week with our Lions Talk channel here at Chat Sports. It's dead even now. It's Monday. We're setting it in at 0 subs for us, 0 subs for them. So help me gain an early lead right now and hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep you posted with all news, rumors, whatever it may be, because expect a lot of news to happen with the Minnesota Vikings around Dalvin Cook and Danielle Hunter, obviously. So hit that subscribe button to keep us in, or to keep yourselves in the loop. Let's talk about it. Where will Dalvin Cook go? Because this has been the story, probably the main story of the Vikings offseason so far. And CBS Sports actually put an article out listing the top Dalvin Cook landing spots if he were to be cut. We've talked about the Dalvin Cook trade rumors being a possibility, but I just think it is less and less likely that Dalvin is traded, because I do think a lot of these teams are playing a waiting game with the Minnesota Vikings and are just hoping that he will be cut and then maybe they can sign him. Here were the 5 landing spots that CBS Sports put out there. They had the Cowboys at number 1, the Bears at number 2, the Cardinals at number 3, Chargers at 4, and Niners at 5. I actually think Cowboys are a sneaky landing spot for Dalvin Cook. Obviously, if he is cut, they moved off Ezekiel Elliott. They really only have Tony Pollard as their main go-to back. They also have Ronald Jones as well. But Tony Pollard obviously coming off a season-ending injury that he occurred in the playoffs last season. So, again, like the Cowboys, they could be looking for another big-time back. The Bears as well obviously have Khalil Herbert, drafted Roschon. They could be maybe adding a third running back there to that room. Cardinals really don't have anybody but, I'm blanking on his name, James Conner in that room. So Dalvin Cook is going to be a star for him. Chargers, interesting one if they do move off Eckler, and then maybe even the San Francisco 49ers. With C-Mac being injured all the time, who knows? Maybe they could go after Dalvin Cook. But again, I do think it's time for the Vikings to move on off of Dalvin. Obviously, they re-signed Madison this past year. I want to see Ty Chandler get touches. I want to see Kene Nwangwu get touches as well. You're going to need to bring on C.J. Ham for the final 53-man roster. Then you also you used a draft pick on Dwayne McBride as well. But again, the production for Dalvin past 4 seasons, we've seen it. It has gone down every year since 2020. That 2020 year, you could legit make an argument that he was the best running back in the NFL. He had over 300 carries and still having his yards per carry to be over 5. He was sensational that year. He was a special player, but we really just haven't seen it the past 2 seasons, and especially last year. But I ask you guys, if you guys do think Dalvin Cook is going to be cut, let me know. Where do you guys think Dalvin Cook will sign? This will be the pinned comment on today's video. So YouTube's going to throw an ad break your way. Sit back, let it play, and answer today's pinned comment. Where do you think Dalvin Cook will sign if he is cut? Now let's talk about the Vikings possibly extending Danielle Hunter. This was kind of an underrated story that has kind of floated around the Vikings offseason programs, because a report did come out that Danielle Hunter is not expected to attend the start of voluntary offseason program for the Minnesota Vikings, which is going on, and he has still not shown up to a single workout. And I do think this story has kind of flown under the radar, because obviously there's the Darius Smith trade, the news with Dalvin Cook. That seems the news story breaks on that almost every single day, it feels like. This has been kind of the story that has flown under the radar. He is set to only make $5 million this next season, and he's one of the better edge rushers in the league, and he wants to get paid like it. Career numbers for Danielle Hunter, those 71 sacks is what stands out to me. He was the fastest player in NFL history to reach 50 sacks. Danielle Hunter, he's been great in the run game. He's been obviously great in the pass rushing game as well for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm a big fan of his, and I still want him to be on the Vikings roster. That's why I would extend him. I do think it's time to give Danielle Hunter that new contract that he deserves. He doesn't deserve to get paid $5 million next year. He deserves to get paid way more than that. It's just going to have to come down with pricing with this team. I think Danielle sees himself getting paid as a top 5 edge, and I think the Vikings maybe want to pay him as a top 10, top 12 in the edge in the NFL. But I'll toss it your guys' way. Let me know, how much per year would you give Danielle Hunter? I would probably say around that $15 million range. Obviously, he signed that initial contract of $5 for $72 million. But let me know, how much would you pay Danielle Hunter per year? Get down in the comments section and answer that question. Guys, but we do have some Jordan Addison jerseys on sale right now. If you go to chatsports.com/Vikings jersey, you can get yours today. Jordan Addison, he's going to be wearing number 3 for the Vikes, just a placeholder number right there. But I will say, the Addison jersey with the number 3, that's probably going to be one of the most worn Vikings jerseys by Vikings fans this upcoming year. They're absolutely sweet, so go check it out, chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Now let's talk about it. Can Brian Flores fix this Minnesota Vikings defense? Because listen, this defense, it was awful. I mean, it was the worst defense in the NFL last season. The Vikings were still able to win 13 games. That's why I just think it's so important. It could be so impactful if Brian Flores could maybe not take this to one of the worst defenses in the league, to maybe take it to a top 20, top 15 defense, because I do think the Vikings offensively, they are going to get better. They were top 10 in almost everything on offense last season, with another year in Kevin O'Connell's system, with Kirk Cousins, another year with the same play call, which he has not had in his entire NFL career, with obviously Addison, Josh Oliver coming in. I think the Vikings offense will take another step, but it comes down to this defense. The stats last year were terrible. I mean, they were legitimately the worst defense in the NFL. I think I could say that confidently. I mean, Ed Donatell was one of the worst defensive coordinators we have seen in a very long time. Almost last in points. Almost last in yards per game. Yards per play almost last. Oh, rush defense wasn't too bad, but it was still at 21st. Pass yards per game, almost dead last in the league. And I've shown this this graphic many times about just like 4 players that I kind of have circled on the Vikings roster as guys that can break out. Andrew Booth Jr. and Akayleb Evans at that cornerback position. Those guys in year 2, they dealt with injuries during year 1, but I do think that if they have another year with Brian Flores, I think they could really step up and be impactful players for the Minnesota Vikings. You guys know how I feel about Brian Asamoah. I think he could legitimately be an all-pro type of linebacker with the speed he has. I'm excited to see what he can do. And obviously, Lewis Cine, coming off that big-time injury he suffered against the New Orleans Saints. I think these 4 guys, if 2 of them have good years, I think this defense could really take another step forward. But we also got to talk about Byron Murphy and Marcus Davenport. Those are 2 guys that I think could be sleepers that could maybe have Pro Bowl types of seasons. You know, Marcus Davenport, former first-round pick, he's got a ton of potential, but he's kind of just dealt with injuries in New Orleans, and he really, maybe a change of scenery could be best for him because he is an all-world talent. You throw his tape on, his talent really jumps off the screen. And then Byron Murphy. I mean, Byron Murphy coming up from the Arizona Cardinals, I really liked him coming out of the draft, and I think it could be a huge addition to that Vikings secondary group that really needs a leader to step up in that cornerback room. And who knows, that could be Byron Murphy. I like him more as a cornerback too, but he could be a hell of a cornerback 1. Let me know, do you guys trust Brian Flores to fix this Vikings defense? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no down in the comment section. I'll be typing my Y for yeses. I think Flores will get this turned around. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you guys made it to the end, just give me a skull down in the comments section. I love seeing where all the real ones are that watch all the way to the end of today's video. See you guys next time. Give me a skull down in the comments. Skull Vikes.